good afternoon, everyone. We are exactly at the lunchtime. So, first of all, a big congratulations to Bhaumek and the CSRBOX team for completing 10 years. And luckily, I have been part of all the editions so far in different roles. So, I'm very, very happy to be here on this occasion. And thank you for giving me the opportunity. I have a very good panel, and I'm not gonna really give a lecture around what this session about is. I'll briefly talk about it, why it is important to talk about this issue, and then we go on into to the people who are there with me to hear from them. So why this session is important is the key thing. There are two components to this. One is, of course, STEAM education. The second is the life skill. Now, as a country where we are today, it's a very important juncture right now, and जो हम अभी बात कर रहे हैं अमृत काल की, the अमृत काल or the future of India, which is 2025 and 2030, India becoming an $8 trillion economy. There will be lots of things which will be required, but one of the key component is going to be the human resource. If we have to achieve those numbers, we cannot do that without human resource, and that human resource cannot come from any other country. It has to be Indian, right? So we have to really invest in these two components, which is STEAM and life skill, to achieve those numbers, or even if you want to go very closer to them. So that's the importance of this session. I can see attendance is low, people are hungry, so that's fine with us. But so I take it as that you are really interested in session and will continue. Few numbers I'll throw. We are in a country where there are about 15 lakh schools. We're talking about almost a crore teacher. We're talking about almost 12.5 lakh schools which are run by government system, not in the private or the public or charitable institutions. We're talking about almost 80% of them being the primary schools, right? So that's the setup we are looking into. So luckily, we have panelists who are expert in their own domain, and they're going to talk about their experience and their journey so far. So what we will do that we will give them 2 minutes each where they can introduce themselves and talk about the work they do. And then we will immediately open the floor for questions. You can have a directed question to any one of them. And then we will again come back and discuss few more things if the time is allowed. We have about 40 minutes, so I think we should be good to take few questions at the end as well. So I'll go to Srijan, if you can begin and share your journey.
You want me to talk about what we do?
Yes.
Okay, right, thanks. Hello everyone, my name is Srijan Singh, and very happy to be here with all of you. All of you are very seasoned professionals in CSR, social impact, and I saw a lot of technological solutions. I'm very happy to see that across various domains. So it's an honor and a privilege to be with all of you, and I'm sure we can learn from each other. Now what we do is, there are essentially 3 different organizations I operate. One is called Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Center. Many of you might have heard of it. That was started by Dr. Kalam in 2011, and I was the co-founder. And of course, when Dr. Kalam was alive, he's an institution in himself. And it was only after 2015 that we started taking up missions which Dr. Kalam wanted to achieve, and those were his unfulfilled dreams. So one of the things which we started off and we now aggressively operate is the world's largest free library network. We have 495 libraries spread across India, mostly in villages, in children observatories, in rural pathshalas, if you call them, and so on. And these are not just libraries, but also skill development centers, especially in cases of children observatory, where we think employability is very important to teach children at a very early stage. We also work in the domain of governance reform. We work with, currently we're working with 8 different governments or ministries in helping augment the impact of government-based solutions using technology and social space like volunteers and so on. If you go to our Facebook page or Twitter page, our Facebook page is the world's largest NGO. 2.5 billion followers are there, of course, thanks to Dr. Kalam. And they are always aggressive and open to doing anything across the world. So we are blessed with that volunteer base. We also recently In fact, many of you might have heard of it. This year on 12th of August, actually, we completed it. We did the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav quiz, which is called Jigyasa, which is the world's largest quiz ever by a factor of 20 times. So we had 11 lakh quizzers from the most remote parts of India, from 717 districts of India, which is nearly 90% of districts. They came and across 17 languages, an AI-driven quiz, which eventually culminated into a physical quiz, where the cash prize was about 65 lakh rupees. And these were all village children who got it. The Prime Minister had talked extensively about it. That's how I hope you might have heard of it. And of course, the government was highly involved. We aspire to create knowledge as a product where children can see there is value to it. So that's something which we aggressively strive with. I think with the course of discussion, I'll see other things as well. There are two other things I want to talk about, but I'll leave it at Kalam Center, and I think once we interact, we'll get more introduced to the other things which we do, which include Homi Lab and also the VK Patil Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ronak?
Actually, yeah, thank you so much. Very quickly, my name is Ronak Jogeshwar. I am a mechanical engineer, a maker, a tinkerer. Okay, I started my making journey at the largest maker space of India called Makers Asylum. Then traveled all across the country from India-Myanmar border to India-Pakistan border, Kashmir to Kanyakumari, to teach young students about tinkering and innovation. Then something happened, something magical happened. I was asked to create the first 10 maker spaces in schools, known as the HappyTinkering Labs, and then eventually I joined the Atal Innovation Mission as Niti Aayog as its founding team. I think I'm blessed and also maybe slightly cursed to be the youngest innovation lead in the history of Niti Aayog at 25, and then the journey continued from 10 to 10,000 tinkering labs. When I hit the 10,000 tinkering labs, I said thank you to Niti Aayog and went to US to study about global makerspace policies and global STEAM education policies at Harvard University, and now I'm back. I have now realized that whatever happened in the past 6 or 7 years when it comes to STEM education or STEAM education for that matter was a serendipitous journey of many interesting experiments. And I think I have a rear view mirror on understanding how these education policies were created and more importantly implemented. And I'm just here to experiment what's next. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your patience.
Thank you. Please.
So, Ronak set up 10,000 ATLs, and we started working in about 450 of them. So thanks Ronak for having that vision. Learning Links Foundation, we work in education and in the STEM space, and everything that we do, I think I'm just going to take a step back and not really talk about the foundation. It's available on the website. But we are all educators and learners of our own devices. In education, we work with kids from government schools and marginalized communities, providing them both foundational literacy, numeracy, grade level competencies, as well as a STEM education. And we realized very early on what this topic talks about, that STEM or foundational literacy or grade level competency without actually integrating life skills is a zero-sum game. Because if you are talking about STEM education and if you are talking about foundational literacy and you're talking about integrating it all, how do you really integrate it? And the way we approach our programs is looking at working with teachers. We love them, we don't like them, we are them, we have been them, but they continue to be the arm that will help raise the next generation of the workforce that will continue to thrive in India. Work with teachers, working with them around integrating a STEM approach or a STEAM approach in their subject matters. Because I think a lot of STEM education has been on the outside of the education gambit. So it becomes, oh, we'll do this project, or we'll do this approach. But how do you integrate it into the life of a physics teacher? How do you integrate it into the life of a chemistry teacher? And how do you integrate into the life of a chemistry teacher the ability to communicate, articulate, problem solve, and actually explain a project? Because my physics teacher talked to the board when she was teaching, right? So did yours. But how do we change that mindset? And that's where life skills comes into play. In the innovation space, we are working with about 450 Atal Tinkering labs and about 50 other innovation labs across the country. And 90% of our work is with government schools. And that's where the double equity game comes in, because the whole question around STEM, equity, access, and democratizing that whole process to be able to provide kids across all, equity issues, that same level of education that is enjoyed across the layer becomes that little bit of a double-edged sword for us. But more on that later. Thanks, Ashish.
Thank you. Like these days, even the teachers are not talking. Now the boards are doing the talking. So another real challenge which we have. Satyajit, over to you.
So, thanks. I think very interesting panel, of course, and I think somewhere, whenever I come onto these panels, I was on an NEP, some slight feedback. So, no, I think there's so few people. I think I'll try my voice.
Hello. Here you go.
So I think maybe I'll just go over it. I think it's, sounded like a million grasshoppers at it. But anyway, so just hold that for 2 minutes. Huh? So
Talking about STEM, so this is justified.
Absolutely. I think in India we have so much. We are so human capital rich that you can have somebody hold that wire down for maybe half an hour while we are speaking. But anyway, I think I would just not like to take too much time. I know I'm probably well into my 2 minutes, but in terms of the interventions we do, we actually have one of our focus areas in our CSR program has been education as a foundation. And these are areas that we focused on, life skills and STEM, and also arts in a way, using arts or creativity towards training in life skills and various other building the foundational values. I think somewhere, I had a colleague of mine put together a few points, and he's spoke of that we have made a difference to 33,000 people who have been benefited. But I think numbers are obviously, many people will throw many numbers out there, but I think the focus is to see how much quality we can deliver rather than numbers. And, that's always a work in progress. Sometimes we feel that we're doing a great job with the project, but then we realize you can add something, you can do something, as CSRBOX says, in a doing good in a better way. And interestingly, our organizational sort of the motto or the sort of slogan that we use is we look deeper to find a better way to do things. So I think so that's always the approach. But I think very interesting session, and I think post NEP2020, how we can improve our projects to sort of work in that parameter is something which we would love to talk about. So back to you, Ashish.
Thank you. Shubham, over to you now.
First of all, thank you to CSRBOX and Bhaumik's team for organizing this Mahakumbh of social development professionals and all the technological experts and everybody who are here. I represent a company which has walked through your lives at certain point of times, Bata. I believe many of you would be wearing Bata right now and have worn Bata at certain point of your lives, being in school or right now, whatever. So yes, a 100-year-old company, 130 years exactly, and 100 years of existence in India. Bata has historically been in the space of education. Given our founders, Mr. Thomas Bata, was very close to the cause of education and children. And that's why our CSR is branded as Bata Children's Program. Our CSR is branded as Bata Children's Program, and eventually in this space, as the company evolved with its trajectory of business growth, our CSR has also evolved. And the company as itself, employees and everybody, we have taken a certain, we've seen ups and downs, and we have come up to a stage where our CSR is very focused with respect to numbers. We are not a company which are targeting the numbers, we are focusing on the impacts, and that's why you may not see our presence across India or in rampant numbers, but you will see our presence in terms of 10 or 12 schools where we are touching all the levers of quality education. Yes, we started with infrastructure like any other company, but today we have STEAM education as one of the important components. We have sports as one of the important components. We have foundational literacy and numeracy, one of the important components, and that too at a state level, given that we have partnered with one of the organizations which is supporting Haryana State for project management of Nipun Haryana mission. And personally, I also contribute to the Nipun Gurgaon mission as a member of the committee. So Bata has been into the space of education, and STEAM education, with the topic which we are discussing today and the life skills which we are discussing today, we have been into this space, but given this space has got it structured now in the recent times, we are also evolving ourselves. And yes, looking forward to discussion today, and I'll contribute to my this topic going onwards. Yeah.
Thank you, Shubham. There is one more part into this, which is NEP2020. Why there was need to add a STEAM or life skill into that is something which is very critical, because we are talking about future leaders, we are talking about future workforce. Now, how many of you have recruited anybody in last 3 or 4 years or 5 years? Did you do an interview of anybody for a technical or non-technical position? How many of you have done an interview to hire someone? You can raise the hand, no problem. If you are an employer, that's a good thing, right? And did you find that they were missing either the technical skills or the life skills, communication skills, problem solving? We go through these online tests also these days, but there are those missing points. The point is, nobody is teaching that. Our education system so far have been more into historical facts and figures, how many wives some king had and how many how many times they were displaced and all those things. Whereas the future is technical. Future is very, very focused on 5 or 10 life skills. Like, so NEP does talk about starting early, the STEM education in the primary sections itself, hands-on learning, teachers training, creating infrastructures, which I think all of us are in a way or other doing it. And the life skill, which is about the critical thinking, problem solving, communication skills, right? We have all faced it, every one of us. So I think that's the point which we'll have to keep in mind when we now raise the questions to this panel. And we have got 20 minutes. Rather than we giving you a lecture, we will want you to raise questions. And if we have time at the end, maybe I'll give another 2 minutes each, and I have few questions which I can ask them. So please stand up, raise your hand, ask the question. If you have a targeted question to any of the leader here, please take their name so they can answer, please. Just take the mic, please.
Corporate people sitting here.
You have to direct which one. All of us are corporate.
I think you three are from corporate, right? Either are from some foundation.
Yes.
But anybody can take this question. I come from academia, and we do a lot of STEM education. Department of Science and Technology has a division called NCSTC. Under that, we have very good amount of projects which we do in schools to promote STEM education. Their scheme is STEM demonstration and popularization. So I want to understand, I as an academic institution, a university, how can I collaborate with corporate and implement STEM education programs in schools in collaboration with corporate?
Okay. Maybe Shubham, you want to take up? No, so we are very open for the discussion. See, everybody looks for the ideas. So I'll come to how. You can take my email ID afterwards. But how is the question is that, see, you have to build the relationship. What happens here or otherwise also, the moment I'll go back, I'll get a 2 crore rupees ka proposal in my email box by evening itself. The point is that you have to co-create that offering which you are creating, because you have to understand what we want as a corporate, what our leadership believes in. Maybe what you are thinking, what you're doing is absolutely fine and right. We're not questioning that, but you'll have to modify, customize it to our need as well, because we are a company. For me, human resource in the consulting sector is important. Maybe a chartered account is important for me. For him, it's the software skills. For him, it is the manufacturing skills. Now, one set of proposal to 3 of us will never work. And this is what happens. I get proposals almost every week. I get 10 proposals, but none of them is customized. Sometimes even the name of the corporate of the last version is written in those proposals, right? And I'm not saying there is nothing wrong in that, but at least co-create these proposals and partnerships, and that will take time. Yes. Right. Exactly. So I was coming to that. So I'll come to that. Now this is where you co-create, where you engage with them. You will have to discuss things with us, and then design the programs in a way which is aligned to our vision, which is your thought process, and then see the pilot at the ground as well. Right. So if that can happen, only then the model will be scale up. As I said, we have about 15 lakhs of school in India. One model, 30 lakh or 50 lakh rupees robotics lab, if a corporate is putting up, we cannot cover those schools everywhere. So that's where I'm saying it's more of a collaborative approach is what we need.
So adding to his point only, it's the research. Where are you pitching? So it's sometimes we also feel bad in saying no, because we receive some proposals which are not aligned with our strategies, and strategies of every corporates are mentioned almost in our CSR policies, website, everywhere. Just a research about that particular corporate, where are you pitching, is very important, so that your efforts are also optimized, so that you get the right corporate where you have to pitch. So sometimes you don't know, like, for example, we are not into rural space, we are not into agri-business, but then we receive a lot of proposals on that space. So it's eventually we have to say no, and it's just a waste of effort of the NGO partner. But yes, as a corporate, what we can do is to connect them to the right corporate, if we know anybody.
Can I respond to this?
Yes. Just one point and then...
Yep. Please, sorry.
So, I mean, I just want to check with you. So, you have tried and it's not worked, or... Right. Right. Correct. Yeah. Right. Is there openness? Yeah.
So collaboration and co-creating, this is the important thing.
Correct. Yeah. So I would say, yeah.
Can I moderate the session, please?
So I would just
please,
just add one point before handing back to Ashish, is that so one is, I think, the point of co-creating, focusing, figuring out, who's the right sort of agency or entity to fund it, for whom it makes sense, because different companies tend to follow different themes, and typically looking at all of that is important. I think also sometimes there are different models, right? So because lots of us work with not so much with academia, so I think you should also you should also build it in your thing that, look, corporates don't always work with academia. They tend to also work with organizations which are which have been around for a longer time, which are not academia led. So I think somewhere trying to factor that in, because sometimes what also happens is there is a when you talk to, say, a corporate, you just assume that, okay, they're just there to fund. So, I think just building that relationship, and what I think Ashish is also saying is that sometimes just spending a few minutes with that person and just figuring out what that person needs and building that human connect, right? So, a proposal may have everything there, and it may be beautifully formatted, but it just doesn't touch the right chord.
Yeah, thank you. Moving on to the next one. Yes. Please.
So, there is a lot of talk about STEM and all. in India, there is a large number of students who are into courses like BA, BSc, not BSc, BA, BCom and all those. So we are not talking about how to make them employable by giving them life skills, and making them employable. So I guess there has to be some paradigm shift or some thought behind that also.
So I'll ask Nuriya to take it up.
So I think that's an important point. I think the world is moving at a point of convergence rather than divergence. And what we are seeing in school education and what we are trying to really work on is how do you create, even if it's, let's say, BA Psychology or BA English Literature or BCom. Today, whether it's technology or whether it's life skills, it's pervasive in a BA. I will need to know data analytics for me to do a course well in my BCom. I will need to be comfortable with data management, or I will need to be comfortable with AI, regardless of what stream I'm doing. And I think it's time that we stop looking at them in a binary fashion. I think when we look at the word STEAM education, it is not only applying principles of art on science and technology, but the way we look at it is applying science and technology on the arts. And I think it's a valid point that you've raised. And the point, again, it comes back to being integrative, being collaborative across streams, and really what NEP actually tries to do, being more credit-focused and not in silos. Very often, unfortunately, to end my point, is that kids who are in the science art stream, so to speak, they actually take a cop-out example for themselves. Hum hi nahi karna hai. This is not my area. Now, of course, it's your area. I was an art student, and that's something to be proud of today, because without that arts background, you're not going to have either science, technology, or ethics, or equity, or all those conversations. So I think it's about being that by actually leaning in a bit, and not just taking a step back.
Yeah. Srijan wants to add something.
Off mic. Now it's working. See, it's a good question, but one thing is that there are two kinds of job creation which is happening, and I'm telling you as an employer. So one of the products we are building right now is building AI avatars of human beings. And we're trying to do this in 10,000 rupees, give me a person, I'll pick a persona of it. Technically, that is a very science project. It's a technology product. There are 3D designers, there are animators, there are riggers, there are coders, so on. But out of a team which is building, about 12 people would be these science sort of people. But there are 5 people who are linguists. I have to get linguists on board. I have to get somebody who understands human psychology on board. So there's one person, the 3 linguists, there's 1 psychologist, there's somebody else in a sociology background. We sometimes tend to alienate that, that if you teach STEM, it is reserved for only those who are doing BSc. First of all, that will go away with, I think ma'am was talking about, NEP itself is saying cross-functional learning. Those days where if you take science in class 11, then for the rest of your life, you had to do science. And if you take humanities in class 11, that's all what you could do, are gone. Not right now, but in the next 2-3 years. If a child is studying in class 6-7 today, those days are gone. You will cross-functionally learn, there will be convergence, there will also be cross-learning between the platforms. In the future, going ahead, a lot of AI, which we are all talking about, will actually automate science jobs more than humanities jobs. They will actually assist those humanity jobs, which I am seeing right now as an employer, I am telling you. So this thing of thinking in a silo is probably a product of what we have learned, because that's what I learned. That's what you learned. That's what all of us have gone through the same thing. Science ले लो, engineering करेंगे, biology ले लो, जो सबसे ऊपर होता था वो engineering करेगा, उसके नीचे वाला biology करेगा, उसके नीचे वाला जिसको science काम आती है वो commerce करेगा, जिसको math भी नहीं आती है वो humanity करेगा. Humanity वाला civil servant बन जाता है, उसके बाद सबको control करता है, वो अलग बात है, ठीक है. So those days are gone. I think science and science education will do a lot of good for humanities as well. And then there is the other point I want to raise. Science is not just about learning science in a formal way. Technology is also being a scientific thinker. The temperament of science is important. You see what happened with Chandrayaan-3. I did about 45 shows in 3 days in Chandrayaan across TV. I did a National Geographic show live while it was happening. You know, who was our audience? The kind of questions were coming. They were not science students. They were students who were doing BA. Somebody was a musician. Somebody is a dancer. But they're all interested in that. The day we make science more interesting, and I think that should be one of the focal, somebody I hope asks, how to make science more interesting and not boring and scary. That day you may not have a lot of BScs, but you'll have a lot of people who would have a scientific temperament and scientific thinking. That's what's important. Okay.
Very well said. Thank you. Very well said.
Oh, absolutely. Why not? You see, and everything, science and spirituality are so connected. When we were launching Chandrayaan, where did our scientists take the model? Tirupati temple.
Tirupati.
Science and spirituality is also connected. We have to let go, and I'm sorry if somebody gets offended, Western way of separating science and art and philosophy and everything and human emotions are not separate for us. Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram. They all, what is truth is right, what is right is also beautiful. So we have to, the Indian way of education, which has created more products than any other civilization. Out of 6,000 years of civilizational heritage, India has been at the top of economy, top of science, top of art, top of medicine for at least 5,500 years. It's a fantastic civilization. We must learn from it. And the roots of it are ingrained that science and art and philosophy and music, everything is integrated. Now the West is realizing. So all this is actually known to us long ago.
Thank you. So we'll take one more question and we'll come back to the questions. I've taken 2 questions from here.
Cool. Hi.
Can you just hold till last? If we have time, we'll take it. So anybody from this side wants to ask any question? Okay, go ahead then. I'll come back to you at the end.
Hi, I'm just happy to see someone like Ronak and by extension Miss Nuriya also, because you said about tinkering and other things. Just to give you some context, we have a hackerspace in Kochi, we're Kochi based, and we promote technological learning across 70 colleges. I'm saying this because investing in life skills in STEM has become a very traditional model in CSR where we not look at holistic learning. I mean, we do encourage innovation and spirit of learning among students, but that somehow is not rewarded, even though we look at employability at a certain way. Also, we connect students to scholarships and placements and otherwise. But my question is, if we are talking about life skills, STEM education, we should look at it holistically and how investing in them becomes attractive for someone like us who are promoting a spirit of innovation as well through tinkering and through a hacker space which is 24 hours open and to like interact with technology, latest technology. So I hope I'm clear. Yeah.
Great. Ronak? Yes, please.
Mic check? Yeah. I have been taught only one approach. I have been asked, if you were there, if you were at your place, what would you do? By my beautiful mentor named Amitabh Kant. Okay, so I'll just try to approach this like that. Similar problem. When I was on Makers, the biggest problem was how can we get all these makers come inside the maker space, work with each other and collaborate with each other. Artists, engineers, doctors, everyone. Okay, created a hackathon. Okay. That hackathon actually match made, okay, makers across different domains. Later, we created a thing called STEAM School, which is called the SDG School right now. 9 days of complete bonkerless making. Okay, what did it entail? We found someone whose name is, okay, I'll take his name. His name is Mahin Pitale. Mumbai bomb blast, lost his arm, came to the makerspace. Met a doctor, met an artist, met an engineer, had a prosthetic in 9 days. Okay? The doctor created the necessary prosthetics, the engineer did the engineering bit, the artist made it beautiful. Okay? So this is like a cross multidisciplinary collaboration which happened there. That specific learning was taken to something which we call the ATL marathon, which is a student competition. Simple thing. Why do we want the students to work on this particular aspect? Is because we want them to become innovators and creators. How can we do that? Mature from the play mindset. Give them problems to solve. Okay, so this is what I have been at the center of my philosophy, that you are entering at any situation with a problem solving and with a troubleshooting mindset. Coming back to the gentleman who asked the first question, if I were you, okay, first, priority research. Okay, what is the organization doing? Okay, what are their priorities? Where they have invested in STEM education or allied education for the past 3 years. Second, I will try to find the champion. The champion does not need to be the leader of that organization. It can be as simple as the most junior most employee in that particular organization. And I learned this particular approach from LLF. Rashid Bhai is from LLF team who has done wonderful work. Because of him, we were able to do the compliance of 10,000 schools. Because he was able to see the problem, give us a really good life skill based solution कि रौनक भैया आप ऐसे करो, ये हमारी टीम को आप ऐसे बोलोगे ना तो ऐसे अच्छे से हो जाएगा. I learned that from Rashid Bhai. Okay, so that specific aspect, to find that specific champion in a specific team. LLFs, for me personally, I have worked with LLF. LLF's champion is maybe not Nuriya, but definitely Rashid Bhai. Okay, find that champion. And third, try to integrate in their specific priorities with a proposal. And I am proud because I made the proposal very similar, I use a very similar approach. I made a proposal. Yesterday we got the approval. And we have some really good amount of funds to run that particular program. It's called the Horizon program. So yeah, this has worked for me. I'll attack any specific problem with a problem solving mindset. So that is how I try to attack whenever I was in a maker situation or while working, at least in my past life at Niti Aayog.
Okay.
Just to add to your point, all of us who work in the maker environment or the technology environment or the STEAM environment, the first unlearning that needs to take place are the innovation champions in your labs. Right? Let's first make them unlearn what they have inherited through their learning. Because the biggest problem that I see when we are looking at innovation, curriculum is great. Everyone says curriculum is great. Everyone says assessment is great. Everyone says everything is great. But are we innovating? Are we improvising? Are we creating? What are we doing? Are we copy-pasting? And then we tom-tom about how great we are in Jugaad. Jugaad is not innovation. Let's just be very clear about that. My opinion is very firm on that. That's improvisation in English. So if you want to innovate, the first mindset change that needs to come about is in this layer that provides this frontline education to the kids. How do you challenge their thinking? Are they into just prototyping? कि ये 5 चले थे project पिछले batch में, I will reply, let's do a modification of these 5 and apply this again. Child has learned no AI, child has learned no how to use Arduino chip, child has learned how to do 3D printing.
Totally agree with Nuriya ma'am's point, because she has seen so many innovators, so many young innovators working on the ground, so many projects. I'm pretty sure she must have seen thousands by now, like 1,000, maybe a lakh. Okay, so these kind of approaches have to play in place. And please, whenever you are going to any of these events, do not stand like a student in front of the student like a presenter. Oh, the student is already scared to make that presentation in front of you. Be a little comic, like drop the ball, break the ice. Okay. When they smile and give you the presentation, then you know that you can ask them any questions. So try to do that. It worked for me. I am not saying that it will work for everyone, but at least it worked for me.
Good. So we have about 3 minutes left now. So I'll give 30 seconds each where you can maybe make quick closing remarks, each one of you. I'll start with Satyajit with you.
So, yeah, so I think very interesting session. I think thanks Ashish for throwing it open. Sometimes it becomes a one-way street. We just preach to people. I think just to summarize my thoughts, I would say, when you look at the theme, right? Which is investing in life skills and STEAM education, factualization of NEP. I think from a corporate side, we've been, I think life skills in STEM or STEAM, if you call it, has been something which I think most corporates or quite a few corporates were doing. And I think now it falls maybe nicely in the NEP model. I recollect when we did a similar NEP focus session last year at this forum, we spoke of, the fact that NEPs it took a lot of time, and there was sometimes I think there was a discussion about how because of changes in regime, the NEP was also impacted. It was probably too little, too late. But I think clearly, if you look at improving, I think for us the focus also is somewhere. While it's not a focus of CSR, but for corporates, it's who are looking at who are looking at what the future workforce will be. It's important to have people who have those, who have those life skills as well as technical skills, and the definition and the components of each of those is also constantly changing. When you look at having that, I think clearly investing in these elements at a foundational stage is important. It's very difficult to have somebody go through a very traditional, education focused just on maybe very extremely stilted areas, and then sort of just do a 6-month course and just get them, in some way capable to take on in some sort of employment in the new world. So I would say very important. We need to do definitely much more. But I don't think there's something, we can sort of ring fence it and say, look, this is exactly what we need to do, or this will work for the future. It's constantly evolving.
Thank you. So do we get another 5 minutes, the organizers? Do we get another 5 minutes?
I mean, it's their lunch.
We have also not eaten. Please, quickly, 1 minute.
So I'll not take much of your time. I think what life skills and STEAM is trying to do and aspire to do is to develop emotional, cognitive, and social skills all together, apart from the scientific temperament and everything, which is very important to make a resource which is future ready. And in the era of global competitiveness, in the era of technology and innovation, in the era of startup, it is very important and evident for all of us to do. And CSR as enabler can be active support to the cause and the process of making a global competitive future-ready resource by supporting the right implementing agencies who are actually innovating and are in the right space as of now. Yeah, that's it as a
Thank you.
Closing remarks.
1 minute each.
Okay, 1 minute. I think the big takeaway that I keep looking for it is collaboration. We are all working in silos, all trying to achieve the same end, all at times touching the same student 8 times, all trying to hang on to money, and all trying to show our product, which is like really disrupting this whole environment. The entire corporate world has learned how to work together down the value chain. If I look at all the STEM practitioners here, and I look at all the donor agencies here, and I look at all the implementation partners here, if we are looking at that same child from school to livelihood, what stops us from actually contributing our bit to that child's development, so that 5 of us are not investing in that same child in science, 5 of us are not investing in that same child in STEM, and 5 of us are not investing in that same child in skilling. And he gets completely confused, and the government gets completely confused. So I think the big takeaway for this room that I would look at is life skills. We know life skills. We know STEM education. We know NEP. How do we break these silos and start collaborating? And tomorrow, donors are going to be much happier if actually we come together with a collaborative approach, saying, this is how we'll work.
Absolutely.
Much 1 minute? Yeah. First of all, what I will do, I will definitely find someone who I am in complete synergy with. Again, since we are with LLFA, I am with LLFA, I know we have made very, very unreasonable or weird request to LLF at 2 a.m. in the night, okay? And they did whatever they could because our vision was aligned. Secondly, to Sir's point, okay, Srijan Sir's point, I think in my personal opinion, based on my experience, strategies of development nations are not transferable. It is a very consumerism mindset. Imagine the fact that you are getting so much of waste on your streets right now. In my case, my small story, I found 2 broken bicycles off the streets of Harvard. I made a Frankenstein. One bike is the bike which I use for the whole year. The second bike is a clock. And how it is, you can look at my Instagram. I just created that. So that's engineering plus art. And finally, you will find people. We are 140 billion people. You will find people, okay? Just have faith and just find people who are attacking problems. Okay, it's very difficult to find those people, but once you find that, you will find that synergy. That's it. I was and I consider myself extremely lucky, okay, that I could find these people. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. See, in this entire ecosystem of education, one key point and one key stakeholder is the teacher. We cannot have, I work in AI-based teachers and I work on AI tools. We operate perhaps India's best VR, AR and gamified learning laboratory. You're all welcome to visit it. It's in Noida. If you want to visit, just my name @gmail.com. You can get the spelling right. Most of the people get the spelling wrong. And if you want to visit, please do that. But having said that, the role of the human teacher cannot be replaced. We have to work, if you want to reach out to the government schools, the 15 lakh schools, you have to go to the 1 crore teachers. And that is a segment which we need to work on. The other big challenge, and one of the books, the third book which Dr. Kalam and I co-authored is called Advantage India. In that book, we studied how fast the technology curve is shifting, especially when it comes to cutting edge technologies, which is you are supposed to teach that as a teacher. The half-life of the cutting edge of technological education is about 13 months, which means everything which you teach now, in 13 months, half of it will become redundant, be replaced, or become wrong, proven incorrect. Classic example is ChatGPT, which we are seeing right now, how fast it's evolving. So while you can say, so that's where the thinking has to change. You cannot create a curriculum today and expect it to work 3 years down the line. It will not. Which means the standard model of education itself, at least in this domain of STEAM, will have to undergo significant changes. And that is where the whole field opens up to NGOs, CSRs, government, and of course schools. So that's important. On the other side, and probably what I said was slightly scary, but on the other side, see, I travel across the country. I worked with Dr. Kalam and we co-architected a model called Pura, providing urban amenities in rural areas, which is now called Rurban. Pura operates in about 10,000 villages as of today, and a few crore people would be benefiting. You can do the math on it. And I keep traveling to villages, and I keep also interacting to people through media, standard media as well. One thing I can tell you, India is changing. जो भारत है वो बहुत तेजी से बदल रहा है. Chandrayaan 3, Aditya L1, and so many things which we have achieved in the past 2-3 months, you can see how the character of this country has shifted. People feared STEAM. Nobody did BSc in India. MSc, BSc नहीं करते थे इंडिया में. Nobody aspired to be a Nobel laureate in India because nobody got it. सबको BTech करना था. क्यों करना था? Job मिलती है. Now people want to do something beyond. STEAM is not just about BTech. It's, as we said, it's also about pure sciences. Today, this country has got the courage that we can be the first at doing something complicated. The first country to land on the south pole of moon. We became that country in our second attempt to do so. That has changed the character of the people, the children in the classroom. If you don't harness it today, if you don't create that opportunity today, we will miss an opportunity to hop onto the golden age of this country. And this is the opportunity. So do realize that this country is extremely confident now. We are confident about what we can achieve. We aspire for the stars, and we definitely land on the moon, right? So that is the country we operate. We, as Nuriya ji was saying, it's something about making the walls and the borders disappear. It has to be a convergent effort, just like we were talking about knowledge has become, there's convergence in knowledge, there has to be a convergence in contribution towards building that knowledge as well. So thank you for being a fantastic patient audience.
Thank you, it was a pleasure. Please, that's okay.